The cry cut through the silence like a knife. It was high-pitched, frantic, echoing from the basement of that looming, frost-bitten mansion. I froze at the top of the stairs, my hands slick with sweat on the plastic handle of my cleaning cart, my pulse hammering in my throat. The air smelled of damp stone and neglect, and that sound, raw, helpless, alive, clawed at a wound I'd tried to forget. 20 years ago, I was the one left crying, abandoned on a doorstep with nothing but a tattered blanket and a name scrawled on a note, Evelyn. Now I'm just a maid, invisible, scrubbing marble floors for people who never see me. But that cry wasn't just a sound, it was a summons, and it knew my name. I've spent a decade in this job, a shadow in the lives of the wealthy, sweeping away their secrets while burying my own. I know what it's like to be unwanted. My mother's face, blurred by time, still haunts me when I close my eyes. So when that baby's wail rose from the darkness below, it wasn't just noise. It was my own heart, screaming back across the years. But something was wrong. The basement was forbidden, locked for years, its key lost to the mansion's endless corridors. Why was a child down there? And why did the air grow colder, heavier, with each step I took toward the truth? The stairs creaked under my weight, each step a descent into something I wasn't ready to face. A faint rustle, not the cry, came from the shadows below. Fabric, maybe, or something moving. My stomach churned. Whose child was this? What kind of secret could be so dark it was hidden beneath stone and silence? And why did I feel deep in my bones that finding the answer might cost me the little I had left? This isn't just a story about a cry in the dark. It's about the courage to face what terrifies you, to carry a pain you didn't choose, and to decide who you are when the world looks away. If you've ever heard a cry you couldn't ignore, or felt the weight of a truth you weren't ready for, stay with me. Share your thoughts below. Tell me what you'd do in my place, and join me as we uncover what lies beneath. Because what I found in that basement, it changed everything. The cry sliced through the mansion's silence like a razor through skin, high-pitched, frantic, clawing up from the basement. I froze at the top of the stairs, my hands slick with sweat, gripping the cheap plastic handle of my cleaning cart like it could anchor me. My pulse hammered in my throat, a wild, stupid rhythm, drowning out everything but that sound, raw, alive, a blade against the scar I'd buried deep. 20 years ago, I was the one crying, abandoned on a doorstep, nothing but a tattered blanket and a note scrawled with Evelyn in smudged ink. Now, I'm just a maid, a ghost in this frost-bitten mansion, polishing marble for people who don't see me. But that cry wasn't just noise. It was a summons, and it knew my name. The air reeked of damp stone and secrets, thick enough to choke on. I stood there, heart slamming as the cry sharpened, desperate, yanking me toward the basement door I'd been told never to touch. Mrs. Langston's voice echoed in my head, cold as the frost on her windows. "Some doors stay locked for a reason, Evelyn." Her eyes had been knives when she said it, slicing through my usual invisibility. I'd nodded like always, but now my feet betrayed me, inching closer to the forbidden. I wasn't brave. I'm the woman who scrubs stains, not the one who chases mysteries. But that cry? It was personal, like it had crawled inside my bones and found the girl I used to be. I rummaged through the kitchen drawer, my fingers brushing yellowed receipts and bent spoons until they closed around a rusted key, heavy as a lie. It felt like a promise I didn't want to keep, but my hands weren't listening. The door loomed, its wood scarred, its knob cold as death. I turned the key and the lock groaned, reluctant, like it knew what I was stepping into. The staircase yawned open, a throat of darkness, the air so cold it stung my lungs, sharp and bitter. Each breath tasted like mold and regret, and I stood there, one foot on the edge, whispering, "You're not brave, Evelyn," like saying it could stop me. Then it came again, not the cry, but a rustle, soft, deliberate, like fabric dragging across stone. My skin prickled, every hair standing on end. it wasn't just a sound. It was a presence, something waiting below. I took the first step, the wood creaking like a warning, splintered and unsteady under my weight. The cry stopped, sudden as a snapped thread, and in the silence I heard it. My name, faint, a breath from the shadows. Evelyn. Not loud, not clear, but real. Like the darkness itself was speaking. My flashlight trembled in my hand, its beam weak, barely cutting through the black. I wasn't ready for this, wasn't built for it. I'm the one who cleans up messes, not the one who makes them. But that cry had found me, and it wasn't letting go. Each step down felt like falling, like the mansion was swallowing me whole, and I knew whatever was waiting below wasn't just a child. It was a truth I'd spent my life running from. The basement was a grave, its air thick with the stink of mold and time that had given up hope. My flashlight trembled, its beam slicing through the dark, catching cobwebs strung like traps and broken chairs piled like bones. The cry came again, softer now, almost pleading, but it wasn't alone. A rustling followed, closer, deliberate, like someone, or something, watching from the shadows. I'm not a hero. I'm the woman who scrubs lipstick off wine glasses, who mops up the rich folks' spills. But that cry hooked into my heart, a barbed thing, whispering, "You can't leave her." It wasn't just sound. It was a tether, pulling me deeper into a place I didn't belong. My light caught something, a tiny, pale hand reaching from a bundle of filthy blankets in the corner. My breath snagged, sharp and painful. I knelt, the cold stone biting my knees, and there she was, a baby, barely a few months old, her eyes wide with terror, her shawl damp with the basement's chill. Her face was a punch to the gut, all fragile need, and I couldn't look away. A note was pinned to her blanket, the handwriting jagged like it was written in a panic. Hide her. Tell no one. The words burned into me, a warning, a plea, a threat all at once. My hands shook as I lifted her, her warmth shocking against the cold, her cries softening as she clung to me, tiny fingers digging into my skin like she knew I was her only chance. Footsteps echoed above, sharp, deliberate, not the lazy shuffle of the other maids. Someone knew I was down here and they weren't happy about it. My heart raced, a frantic thing, and I tucked the baby behind a crate, whispering, "I've got you," though my voice cracked, betraying the lie. I didn't have her. I didn't have myself. The crate's shadow swallowed us, but it wasn't enough. The door above slammed shut, a heavy, final sound, locking us in with the dark and whatever truth I wasn't ready to face. A shadow flickered at the top of the stairs, too tall, too still, like it was waiting for me to make a mistake. I pressed closer to the baby, her breath warm against my neck, and tried to think. Who leaves a child here? Who writes a note like that, like their life depends on it? My mind flashed to my own past, to the doorstep, the note with my name. This wasn't just a baby, it was a mirror, reflecting every moment I'd felt unwanted. The rustling came again, closer, and I gripped the flashlight tighter, its beam shaking across the basement's walls. I wasn't brave, never had been. I'm the one who cleans up other people's messes, not the one who saves lives. But her eyes, wide and trusting, wouldn't let me go. The footsteps above grew louder, circling, and I knew we were running out of time. The mansion wasn't just a house, it was a trap, and we were caught in its jaws, with secrets sharper than any blade. The baby's warmth pressed against my chest, a fragile shield against the basement's bone-deep chill. I crouched against the wall, my mind a tangle of panic and memory. Who abandons a child in a place like this, where the air tastes like despair? The note's words, "Hide her," burned in my head, sharp as the image of my mother's face, blurred by time, leaving me on that doorstep 20 years ago. I'd spent my life running from that ache, that empty space where love should have been. But this baby was a mirror, her eyes reflecting my own fear, my own need. I wasn't ready to be her savior. I was barely holding myself together. I found a hidden alcove behind a stack of crates, just big enough to shield us from whatever was out there. The baby's gaze locked onto mine, and for a moment, I was her, small, alone, waiting for someone who'd never come. My throat tightened and I swallowed hard, trying to shove the memory down. Mrs. Langston's voice slipped through the door above, low and sharp, like a blade through silk. "She's down there. She'll ruin everything." Her words weren't just a warning, they were a confession, dripping with something I couldn't name. Guilt? Fear? I didn't know, but they made my skin crawl. My fingers brushed something cold in the alcove's dust. A locket, its metal engraved with AL, heavy as a secret. I clutched it, my pulse spiking, like it could tell me why this baby was here, why I was here. The rustling came again, closer, and I saw it. A figure in the shadows, too tall to be anything but trouble, its eyes glinting like coins in the dark. My breath caught, sharp and useless. I whispered to the baby, "We're leaving," my voice steady despite the tremor in my hands. I wasn't brave, but I wasn't leaving her to whatever was watching. The door above rattled, someone forcing it, the sound like nails on a chalkboard. Time was slipping away, and I could feel it. The mansion wasn't just a house. It was a living thing, its walls closing in, its secrets clawing at us. The baby's eyes stayed on me, trusting, and it broke something inside. I'd never been enough for anyone, not my mother, not myself. But this child needed me, and that need was a weight I couldn't shake. I pressed the locket to my chest, its edges biting my skin, and moved toward the alcove's edge, listening. The rustling stopped, but the silence was worse, thick, heavy, like the moment before a scream. I wasn't ready for this, wasn't built for it. I'm the one who cleans up spills, who fades into the background. But the baby's warmth, her tiny breaths, kept me grounded. Mrs. Langston's voice came again, softer now, almost pleading. "Don't let her find it." Find what? The locket? The baby? Or something worse, something buried deeper than I could imagine? The door rattled again, harder, and I knew we were out of time. The mansion's shadows were alive, and they were coming for us. Have you ever faced a moment where saving someone else meant facing your own pain? The locket seared my palm, its AL initials a riddle carved in cold metal. The baby stirred, her tiny fingers grazing mine, and I felt it, purpose, sharp and unfamiliar, slicing through the fog of my fear. But the basement's shadows held their own secrets, and they weren't letting go. That figure I'd seen was gone, but its presence lingered, a weight pressing on my chest, like the mansion itself was breathing. Someone didn't want this baby found, didn't want me here. And yet, her cries echoed my own from 20 years ago. A doorstep, a note, a life discarded. I couldn't turn back, not now, not ever. I tucked the locket into my pocket, its edges biting my skin, a constant reminder of the stakes. The baby's breathing faltered, weak, her tiny body trembling with hunger or sickness. My stomach twisted. She was fading, and I was no savior. I found a bottle of formula behind a crate, half empty, its cap crusted like someone had been here, feeding her in secret. The thought made my skin crawl. Who was sneaking down here? Who was keeping her alive, but hidden? The note's words, "Hide her," felt like a threat now, not a plea. I pressed the bottle to her lips, her eyes fluttering, trusting me despite everything. Voices filtered from above, Mrs. Langston's clipped and cold, and a man's low, furious. "She's a mistake. Fix it." The words landed like blows, each one heavier than the last. A mistake. Like me. My hands shook, the bottle nearly slipping. Footsteps circled overhead, heavier, deliberate, like predators stalking prey. I needed out, needed to save her, but the basement was a trap, its walls closing in. I pried at a loose board in the alcove, my nails splintering until it gave way, revealing a tunnel, damp, narrow, smelling of earth and decay. A way out, maybe, or a deeper grave. My flashlight flickered, plunging us into darkness for a heartbeat, and the rustling came again, too close, right behind me. My breath caught, sharp and useless. I clutched the baby tighter, her warmth the only thing keeping me from bolting. The tunnel was a risk, a leap into the unknown, but staying wasn't an option. I crawled inside, the walls slick with moss, the air thick with the stench of secrets. "Stay with me," I whispered, to her, to myself, my voice barely a thread. The rustling followed, faint but relentless, like the mansion wasn't done with us yet. I wasn't built for this. I'm the one who scrubs floors, who fades into the background. But the baby's weight in my arms, her soft whimpers, made me something else, someone who couldn't give up. The locket in my pocket felt heavier, like it was pulling me back, warning me to stop. But I couldn't. Not when those voices above were planning something dark, something final. The tunnel stretched on, endless, and I wondered if I was crawling toward freedom or something worse. The baby's eyes met mine in the dim light, and I saw it. Hope, fragile but real. It scared me more than the shadows because hope is a dangerous thing in a place like this. The tunnel was a coffin, its walls slick with moss and lies, closing in like a fist. I crawled, the baby's whimpers louder than my ragged breaths, her tiny body pressed against me. The locket in my pocket felt like an anchor, dragging me back, whispering to turn around. But I couldn't, not with those footsteps above, hunting, circling. My whole life I'd run from my mother's abandonment, from the raw ache of being unwanted. Now I was running for this child, and it terrified me more than any ghost. Her life was in my hands, and mine was unraveling thread by thread. The tunnel spat us into a hidden room, lit by a single bulb flickering like a dying pulse. The air was stale, heavy with secrets. Photographs lay scattered on the floor. Mrs. Langston, younger, her face softer, cradling a baby who looked too much like the one I held. My heart stuttered. A journal sat on a crate, its pages curling, filled with frantic scrawl. She must never know. It's safer this way. The words hit like a slap, sharp and personal. Safer for who? The baby's breathing grew faint, her body limp, and panic clawed my chest. She was starving, maybe dying, and I was no one's hero. A scraping sound came from the tunnel. Someone following, their breath heavy, deliberate, like a predator closing in. My hands shook as I grabbed the journal, its weight a confession I wasn't ready to read. I searched for an exit, finding only a locked hatch, its bolts rusted, mocking me. The baby's eyes fluttered, weak, and I whispered, "Hold on," my voice breaking. I wasn't enough, not for her, not for myself. The locket slipped from my pocket, snapping open, and there it was. A woman's face, not Mrs. Langston's, but mine. Same eyes, same hollow ache. My breath stopped, the room spinning. It wasn't possible. I'd never been here, never known this place beyond its polished floors and locked doors. But the photo was a knife, cutting through the lies I'd told myself. I was part of this, tied to this mansion, to this baby, to the secrets buried here. The scraping grew louder, closer, and I clutched the journal tighter, its pages promising answers I wasn't sure I wanted. The bulb flickered again, plunging us into darkness for a heartbeat, and I felt it, the weight of being watched, of being known. Whoever was coming didn't just want the baby. They wanted me silenced. I pried at the hatch, my nails bleeding, desperation making me reckless. The baby whimpered, her warmth fading, and I realized I was fighting for more than her life. I was fighting for mine. The journal's words burned in my mind. She must never know. Know what? That I was more than a maid? That this place had claimed me before I'd even known it? The tunnel's scraping stopped, replaced by a low, guttural breath, and I knew we were out of time. The hatch was my only hope, but hope was a cruel thing in a place like this. What if the truth you're chasing is the one you've been running from your whole life? The Locketts photo was a gut punch, those eyes. Mine, haunted, hollow, staring from a face I didn't know. It couldn't be real. I'd never been here, never known this mansion beyond its cold floors and locked doors. But the truth was a blade, twisting slow, cutting through the life I'd patched together. The baby, Clara, I'd named her, needing something to hold on to, whimpered, her tiny body trembling against me. Footsteps scraped closer in the tunnel, relentless, hungry, like the mansion itself was coming for us. Whoever was chasing didn't just want Clara. They wanted the truth buried, and I was in the way. I forced the hatch open, my hands raw, the rusted bolts screaming as they gave. A staircase spiraled up, slick with damp, leading to the mansion's main floor. The journal's pages fluttered as I climbed, its words a jagged confession. Evelyn, 2005, Amelia Langston's mistake. My name, my birth year, written like a curse. I emerged in a hidden closet, the air thick with lavender and a sharp, metallic tang. Blood, unmistakable, curling my stomach. Mrs. Langston stood in the hallway, her face pale as bone, a key clutched in her trembling hand. "You weren't supposed to know," she whispered, her voice cracking, like she was breaking too. Clara stirred, and I saw it. Her wrist, a birthmark, a perfect twin to the one I'd hidden my whole life. My breath caught, the world tilting. She wasn't just a baby. She was my blood, my sister, a piece of the puzzle I'd been too afraid to solve. A man's voice barked from another room, sharp, commanding, "Finish it, Amelia, now!" My legs shook, but I bolted for the back door, the journal slipping, its pages scattering like ashes of a life I didn't know I'd had. Each one was a wound, a truth I couldn't unsee. The closet's walls seemed to pulse, the lavender stench choking me, mixing with that blood tang that wouldn't let go. Amelia's eyes followed me, not cold now, but desperate, like she was drowning in her own lies. I wanted to scream at her, demand why she'd left me, why she'd hidden Clara. But the man's voice was closer, his footsteps heavy, deliberate. I clutched Clara tighter, her warmth the only thing keeping me from shattering. The journal's words burned in my mind. Amelia's mistake. Me, her, us. The back door was steps away, but the mansion wasn't done with me yet. I wasn't built for this. I'm the one who fades, who cleans up other people's messes. But Clara's birthmark, her fragile trust, made me something else, someone who couldn't stop. The man's shadow loomed in the hallway, his presence a threat I could feel in my bones. Amelia's key glinted, like it held the answer to everything, but I didn't have time to ask. I ran, the journal's pages fluttering behind me, each one a piece of a life stolen from me. The door was so close, but so was he, and I knew whatever waited outside might not be salvation. It might be worse. The back door was locked, of course. The mansion didn't let go that easily. Clara's eyes met mine, quiet now, like she knew we were out of time. The journal's page lay at my feet, its words a gut shot. Evelyn was a mistake. She had to go. My stomach churned, bile rising. I wasn't just a maid. I was a secret this place had tried to erase, a ghost scrubbed from its polished halls. The air reeked of blood, sharp and fresh, a smear snaking across the floor toward the parlor. It wasn't just a stain. It was a map, leading me to something I wasn't ready to face. I grabbed a letter opener from a nearby table, its dull edge a pathetic defense, but it was all I had. Amelia appeared, her hands trembling, her voice breaking like thin ice. "Evelyn, give her to me. You don't understand." Her eyes were wild, not with anger, but something worse. Guilt, raw and bleeding. I backed away, clutching Clara, the letter opener shaking in my grip. She wasn't getting her, not now, not ever. A man emerged from the shadows, his eyes cold as frost, a cloth in his hand stinking of chloroform. "You're in the way," he growled, his voice a blade. I ducked into the parlor, the blood trail guiding me to a locked cabinet, its wood scarred like it had seen too much. My hands shook as I pried at it, the letter opener bending, my nails splintering. Clara's birthmark burned in my mind, mine, hers, a thread tying us to a truth I couldn't name but felt in my bones. A crash upstairs, glass shattering, cut through the silence, followed by Amelia's scream. "She's my daughter!" The words hit like a slap, but they weren't about me. They were about Clara, the child she'd hidden, the secret she'd buried. The man's footsteps were closer now, heavy, deliberate, his shadow stretching across the parlor's walls. I wasn't brave, never had been. I'm the one who cleans up spills, who stays invisible. But Clara's weight in my arms, her soft breaths, made me something else, someone who couldn't stop. The cabinet loomed, its secrets locked inside, and I knew opening it would change everything. Amelia's scream echoed again, raw, desperate, like she was losing something she'd already given up. The blood on the floor wasn't just a trail. It was a warning, a promise of what waited if I kept going. I gripped the letter opener tighter, my knuckles white, and worked at the cabinet's lock. The man's voice came again, closer, a low snarl. "You can't take her." My heart pounded, a frantic thing, but Clara's eyes held me steady. She was mine to protect, even if it broke me. The mansion's walls seemed to pulse, its air thick with lies and blood, and I realized this wasn't just about Clara. It was about me, about the life I'd been denied, the truth I'd been running from. The cabinet's lock clicked, and I braced myself, knowing whatever was inside would cut deeper than any blade. I pried the cabinet open, my hands shaking, the letter opener bending like my resolve. Inside was a box, ornate and heavy, its wood carved with vines that looked like they could choke you. Letters, photos, a birth certificate. Mine. Evelyn Marie Langston, born Totham 5. Mother, Amelia Langston. My breath stopped, a sharp, useless gasp. Amelia wasn't just my employer. She was my mother, the one who'd left me on that doorstep, building a palace of lies while I scrubbed her floors. Clara stirred in my arms, her birthmark a mirror of mine, my sister, hidden to keep the truth locked away. The man burst into this parlor, his eyes wild, the chloroform cloth raised, his arm already bleeding from some earlier fight. I swung the letter opener, slicing his hand, blood spraying as he roared and stumbled back. Amelia screamed, "She's mine, Evelyn!" But her eyes were on Clara, not me, her voice cracking with a guilt I could taste. I grabbed the box and ran. Clara clutched tight, my legs burning as I aimed for the front door. The journal's last page fell open, its words a gut punch. Clara's proof. She can't exist, or it all falls apart. Headlights flashed outside, a car pulling up, someone new stepping into the night's black maw. Clara's cries pierced the air, sharp, like she felt the weight of our shared blood. The man's footsteps pounded behind me, his breath heavy, promising pain. I wasn't a hero, never had been. I'm the one who fades, who cleans up other people's messes. But Clara's warmth, her fragile trust, made me something else, someone who couldn't stop. The box in my hand was a bomb, its contents ready to blow this mansion's lies wide open. Amelia's voice followed, raw, desperate. "You don't know what you're doing!" But I did. I knew abandonment, knew the sting of being erased. The front door was so close, its handle glinting like a lifeline, but the headlights outside were a threat, not a promise. The man's shadow loomed, his cloth reeking, his eyes locked on Clara. I clutched the box tighter, its edges biting my skin, and pushed forward, knowing the truth was heavier than I could carry. The journal's words echoed. She can't exist, but she did. Clara, my sister, proof of a life I'd been denied. The parlor's air was thick with blood and betrayal, the mansion's walls closing in like a trap. Amelia's scream came again, softer, broken. "She's mine!" I wanted to hate her, to spit in her face for what she'd done, but Clara's weight in my arms stopped me. She was mine to protect, not hers to claim. The headlights grew brighter, the car's engine a low growl, and I realized whatever was out there might not be salvation. It might be worse, but I couldn't stay, couldn't let the mansion swallow us whole. The door was my only chance, but the man was too close, and the truth in my hands was a weight I couldn't outrun. The headlights pinned me, a deer in their cruel glare, Clara's cries sharp against my chest. The front door was steps away, but Amelia's voice clawed at me raw and desperate. "Evelyn, you don't know what you're doing!" I knew enough. Abandonment, lies, the cold sting of being erased. The box in my hand held the proof. I was her daughter, discarded like trash. Clara, my sister, her secret buried alive. The car door opened and a figure stepped out, their voice calling my name. Evelyn, familiar, like a half-remembered dream I didn't trust. The mansion's shadow stretched behind me, hungry, unyielding. I slipped outside, the night air a slap, Clara's cries muffled against my chest. The figure spoke again, stepping into the light, an older woman, my eyes in her face, claiming to be my aunt. "I've been searching for you," she said, her voice steady but her hands shaking. Amelia grabbed my arm, her nails biting deep, her face twisted. "You can't take her. She's all I have left." Her words were a plea, but they cut like betrayal. The box slipped, spilling letters naming Thomas Langston, my father, dead but still pulling the strings of this nightmare. The man appeared, blood dripping from his hand, his voice a snarl. "No one leaves with that child." His eyes were cold, predatory, locked on Clara. My aunt pulled me toward the car, her grip firm. "I've been tracking Amelia since she took you." My head spun. Took me? From where? The box's letters were a map of lies, each one a piece of a life stolen from me. Clara's warmth kept me grounded, her birthmark a mirror of mine, a truth I couldn't deny. The man lunged, his chloroform cloth reeking, but I ducked, clutching Clara tighter. The night was alive with threat, the mansion's lights flickering like a dying heartbeat. Amelia's voice broke again. "Evelyn, please!" I wanted to scream at her, demand why she'd left me, why she'd hidden Clara, but the man's footsteps were too close, his shadow swallowing the light. My aunt's car was a lifeline, its door open, but the box weighed me down, its truths too heavy to carry. I ran, Clara's cries piercing the air, the man's snarl following. "You're not leaving." But I was. Leaving the lies, the pain, the life I'd been forced to live. The aunt's eyes met mine, fierce, promising safety I didn't believe in. The letters scattered, one catching my eye. "Thomas wanted you gone. My father, another ghost in this haunted place." I dove into the car, Clara safe, the door slamming as the man's hand grazed the handle. The mansion loomed behind us, its secrets spilling out, but the night wasn't done with us. Amelia's silhouette stood in the doorway, her face a mask of loss, and I wondered if she'd ever loved me at all. The car's engine roared, pulling us away, but the man's voice echoed, a threat that lingered like smoke. I dove into the car, Clara safe against my chest, my aunt slamming the door as tires screeched. The mansion faded in the rear view, its lights flickering like a dying pulse, a house of lies crumbling behind us. The box lay open on my lap, its contents spilling the truth. Amelia hid me to save her marriage, her wealth, her perfect life. Clara, my sister, was her second secret, locked away to keep the facade intact. My aunt's hands shook on the wheel, her voice steady but raw. "I've been looking for you since she left you on that doorstep." Clara's birthmark mirrored mine, and something broke inside. Not pain, but strength, sharp and new. The car sped through the night, the air thick with the weight of what we'd escaped. My aunt's words cut deep. She'd tracked Amelia for years, knowing she'd hidden us both, her children, like stains she could scrub away. Clara's tiny hand gripped mine, her breathing steady now, trusting me in a way I'd never known. A letter from the box lay open. "Thomas wanted you gone, Evelyn, but I couldn't let you die." My father, a ghost who'd shaped my absence, his shadow lingering in every lie. I clutched Clara tighter, her warmth a promise I'd never break. My aunt pulled over, handing me a phone, her eyes fierce. "Call the police! End this!" Sirens wailed in the distance, closing in, but Amelia and the man might already be gone, swallowed by the night. I whispered Clara's name, found on her birth certificate, vowing she'd have the life I never did, a life where she was seen, wanted, loved. The box's letters were a map of betrayal, each one a wound, but also a weapon. I wasn't invisible anymore. I was Clara's protector, her family, and that was enough. The night stretched on, endless, but the car felt like a sanctuary, its hum a heartbeat. My aunt's gaze met mine, her face lined with years of searching, of loss. "You're stronger than she ever was," she said, and I wanted to believe her. The mansion's secrets were out, but the cost was heavy. I'd lost a mother, gained a sister, found a piece of myself I didn't know I had. Clara's eyes, wide and trusting, held me together, kept me from falling apart. The police were coming, but the truth was already free, and it was mine to carry. I wasn't the maid anymore, the ghost in the background. I was Evelyn, Clara's sister, a woman who'd faced the dark and come out whole. The mansion's shadow lingered, but it couldn't touch us now. This wasn't the end. It was the start of a fight for Clara, for us, for the life we deserved. If you've ever fought for someone you love, felt the weight of a truth you didn't choose, stay with me. Like, comment, share your story. What would you do for family? Subscribe because Clara and I aren't done. We're just beginning, and the world will know our names.